Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's series of lectures, or lecture series from ISM. I believe it's a very important day for me as a person to come back and have something to share with my colleagues, and obviously some of the new students who are studying at ISM. I believe it's important to say one thing quickly. For PhD students, your PhD actually starts after you graduate, not before your graduation. So I would simply say it's a very interesting concept to think your PhD doesn't actually start because you graduate. You start after your graduation and you move on from there to become who you want to become. So I'm very glad to have been part of the alumni of many notable professors from ISM. And one of the things I believe, I want to say this quick before I get into my presentation, is that the concept of what ISM does basically resonates with so many people because you can take time out of your busy schedule and do your PhD and go into different countries, for example, South Africa, USA, India, another part of China as well, and to get to know different places as part of your learning. Education is not only in the classroom, as we all know. The experience you gain from outside the world matters a lot and means a lot to many people. So let me begin by saying, what is research? Why is it so important? And the topic for today is from idea to impact. What you're actually doing with your research is to impact society, impact your community. If what you're doing does not have an impact, then it doesn't, you haven't even started. So I think it's important to think, what can I write? What can I do that could impact or change the narratives? So empowering academics, research, and engagement is why this is so important today that we talk about that. Okay, well, just a bit about myself. I'm a senior fellow of the higher education institutions in the UK. What does that really mean? To teach in the UK, you've got to be qualified and obviously have some kind of authority in your own field. We know many PhD holders are not and will not be able to share or impact knowledge. So teaching in the UK, you've got to have that qualification that allows you to be able to share your experience. But I want to say something quickly. One subject that taught me what I know a lot about from ISM was teaching on the human brain. That was a very classic subject that I really, really enjoyed. How do you look at someone, have the, two brain, A and B, left and right, and able to connect with them in the classroom? It means a lot. I gain a lot from that. Hence the reason why I chose this aspect of my career to become a knowledge management expert. And that is very important. So, and that is important. I'm a senior fellow. Also, we have principal fellow, also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Management and the fellow of Institute of Leadership, and certified member of the business education. So that is just a bit of my background, so what I've done. And obviously, I would say the journey begins at ISM. So I'm proud to be associated and proud to be back again. Okay, idea to impact. What do we mean? What's idea? Many of us have ideas. If you ask anyone who wants to become an entrepreneur, they would tell you, oh, I can do it. I have a lot of ideas. But having ideas is one thing. Making your idea works is another thing. And putting your ideas on paper is definitely a different ballgame altogether. Hence the reason why I will go into details as to why this lecture is so important. Well, here, a bit about me. Just let me leave all that aside. A lot have been said. Let's go into the objectives of today. Why are we here? Well, we want to drive academics engagement through strategic publishing. Not just publishing, strategic publishing. Maximize the reach of your research by engaging with external audiences. That is, knowing who and who will read what you're about to write. Sometimes you might even have to drop what you're planning to write because the audience for it is not worth your effort, but the time to put into it is not necessary. So amplify the impact of your work through collaborative partnerships. This is very, very key. Many of us like to work in silos. Well, after your PhD, you should be able, or master's degree, you should be able to come out there and share what you've gained over a period of time. It's important to do that. And also how to unlock the full potential of your research through an engaging presentation. Before I came to the final part of my presentation today, I've developed almost 3 or 4 different types. And I kept looking at it. Some of them is so wordy, no images, nothing much to write about. It's not attractive. Even though you've done it many, many times, but at different level, you feel you've got to give your very best. So presentation is also very key. So those are the objectives for today. Drive academic engagement through strategic publishing, maximize the reach of your research by engaging with external audiences, very, very key. Amplify the impact of your work through collaborative partnership. You need to be able to do that successfully. So let's go back in time. Look at this slide and take us back to the 17th century, the evolutions of academic research through time. Well, the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge is founded, marking the beginning of modern scientific research. That was in the 17th century. So what we're doing now is not new, but we need to add value and add a different take to what we do. In the 18th century, the first scientific journals are published, allowing for the disseminations of research findings. And then the 19th century, of course, the first universities are established, providing a formal structures for academic research. In the 20th century, where we just passed by, the first research grants are awarded, allowing for more expansive and ambitious research projects. And we know that is not easy to get, but it's actually there. And I believe majority of our students or colleagues will be able to attest to this, how difficult it is to have funding. And in the 21st century, the internet revolutionized the academic research, allowing for the rapid sharing of data and ideas. So the idea would be what we were hiding back in the days that this is my research, this is my papers, this is my work. Before you know it, most of those things, you can find them on the internet. But we need to be very careful as academics, as researchers. Not everything we see on Google, Yahoo, that we can trust. Hence the reason why there's what we call Google Scholar. Google Scholar are very, very important for academics. So you can type anything on Google and you get lots of results. But can you trust those results? As researchers, no, we can't, because empirical evidence are very important in what we do. So we cannot just open our mouth or take anything we see or even forward any message to somebody else without knowing the source of that message. So ladies and gentlemen, today who are online, why academic research? The word that is important here is academic research. Academics, anyone can say, I'm carrying out the research. What type of research? We know we have what is called qualitative, quantitative, and mixed mode research. And there are other research that we've done. But why carry them out? Well, the next thing I want to say is to develop a new idea and ensure innovation. So we carry out research to solve problems, to look at some challenges and see how we can prefer solution to them. But for academics, it's an impact beyond the academic cycle. So basically, you want to reach out to the industry, to companies, to community, and make an impact in those communities and solve some problems that are very common or not very common. I mean, we just recently have COVID-19. Now you know what has to happen before the vaccine could be applied on human. Many, many research were carried out very quickly enough to get it out in record times. And there's also to empower academic research and engagement as the solution for complex problems. And what we see today, what we have today, what we've seen in the past, we're not sure what is coming in the future. So as academics, you're ready to actually showcase your skills and your knowledge based on what you have. Let me just quickly say one thing. Jobs that are available today in the marketplace does not exist 10 years ago. For example, Zoom, cloud data, and many other jobs that are out there today were not available 10 years ago. So what has happened? There has been a lot of research carried out to get people to where they want to be today. So to explore academic research for a better and a more suitable lifestyle is one of the reasons why we research. And that is important. Hence the reason why our job as individual, after graduating, you have to choose a career in a certain part that you follow. I think that's very, very key. But would you say it's all easy to do? Easy sailing? No, of course. Challenges facing young academic researchers are out there. And I've just listed a few of them, and I'm sure there are many than this, but these are more or less the one I could talk about quickly. Time management is a very, very difficult area to manage for young, researchers. You have a lot to do, having a family, having to work and research as well, and probably you have a full-time job, probably working from home, and having to publish journals and books and work with colleagues. Managing your time could be a very challenging time. But of course, this can be overcome. How about experience? Sometimes we're caught in catch-22 situation. No experience, no job, no experience. Writing experience is very, very key. Without good experience and no mentorship, that could also be a challenge. Another thing is, do you consider yourself good enough to write papers that others can read? Lack of self-confidence will also be a challenge for some. Oh, I've got my paper, I've got my PhD, that's it. And they go under the cover and they feel they're not good enough to write papers. That could be something that one needs to work on. And I'm sure at ISM, there are lectures like this to help you develop self-confidence. What has helped me as a person is meeting with other people who have published what they've gone through. Let them share with you, attending many conferences to see how things are done, and even learning to present in the midst of other people and to your colleagues at work, for them to criticize you. Sometimes that works well, but you can't take it for granted or take it personal, because they'll say things that you really don't want to hear. And no one is ever going to be perfect, because we're not perfect humans. So we have to keep learning. So the more you do it, the more you become expert in what you do. Another thing is limited resources. Researching can involve a lot of money, time, and people. You also know many would like to have their information kept confidential. So ethics becomes another aspect of things. So we have to get ethics form approved for students, for them to be able to research or ask questions or sending out a survey to some organization who probably have sensitive data. How about difficulty in selecting your topic? That is another area. What topic will attract or is actually researchable? That is another area to think about. And I believe working with colleagues, working with friends, and reading a lot of books, because you can't give what you don't have. And I'll say very quickly that a small group of committed individuals can change the world. As a researcher, you must be prepared to commit time, effort, and reach out to people. Another thing is finding a suitable advisor. Please, when you log on to your LinkedIn, it's not just accepting everyone that say, accept me. Find out what you have in common. Because you have a LinkedIn account and you connected with few people or some people, or the number of people you have does not actually, it might not be useful to you. So find out among the people you have in there that relate, that resonate, that will basically do things with you that will make meaningful sense to you in the future, or aid your career as a person. How about writing skills? That is another challenge. For many PhD holder, English is still probably the first language. Therefore, having to convert your own language to English sometimes can be a bit of a challenge. And there are what we call academic writing. And there are a lot of lectures, videos on LinkedIn education, where you can actually learn a lot about writing skills. But all of this I've mentioned come with one big thing: stress. Because you will be faced with so many challenges and so many demands. Then the question is, how do you manage stress? There are courses, of course, short courses that are available, but talking through your challenges with other colleagues can be another stress buster. So I will encourage you not to buckle everything in, share your experience with other colleagues, and that can help to manage stress, nicely. So, is this challenges only for lecturers or for young researchers? No. Academic institutions also face challenges. Funding, for example, time constraints, competition. Many universities have different area of endeavor, and every university wants to be perfect or different in what they do. But some of the subjects sometimes might be very similar, but every university wants to have what we call a niche for themselves, a niche market, a unique selling point where they need to differentiate themselves. And this could be as a result of researchers like yourself providing different context, different solutions empirically to support what they do. Publication biases, reproductivity, CBT. It's important to see how that works. What do we mean by publication biases? The journals that they want to associate with, what are the background? What's the quality? How well acceptable are those journals, publications? Who are they? So institutions have to go through quite a whole lot of research to get themselves at that level. So there are challenges there. The question is all good telling you all the challenges that we face. But today I put few things that can help us to overcome some of the challenges that we've actually highlighted earlier on. One of them is optimizing and prioritizing research activities. Optimizing and prioritizing them, making sure not everything that comes your way, you say yes to. You accept things that you know you can do, and what you cannot do, you know when to say no. But of course, collaboration is very important. The second one is collaborating with industry partners and collaborating within an academic community. And hence the reason why I think it's important that we look at communityship. Communityship is important, so you will know who are our friends, critical friends, who can tell us what they think of us. Of course, I believe it's important all of us have area that we can improve on. But having someone who can tell you your feel as a critical friend is very important. They're seeking funding opportunities. You might have to attend several conferences or seminars or webinars to find out how to write acceptable funding applications. What kind of language do you have to use or do you need to use to get funding opportunities? That is very important. And one other thing I've done in my university that have helped me as a person is encouraging student involvement. You'd be amazed what you can get from students, subject area they've actually researched that they can discuss with you. I mean, I currently supervise over 33 students with their dissertation, and different students come up with different ideas and different subjects. But being able to read through what is submitted to you is very important. So encourage student involvement and don't just see them as, giving you too much work to do. You can gain a lot by working with students as well. So that's one of the things that's helped me as a person. But there's something I want to quickly share, which is the research cycle, life cycle. Think of your research strategy. What are you working on? What are you thinking of working on? How best is it for you? Will it take more of your time? If that is the case, do you have the time for it? Have you taken your family into account? Because as a researcher, three things that is so important in your life is your work-life balance, your family, very, very important, and managing stress, very, very key. So making sure that you have a strategy in place of how to approach things. So developing your proposal is very, very important aspect of things. Thinking through how to develop them and the time you will need is important. So the process you go through are quite important. Hence the reason why this research life cycle is so key, because there's what we call post-award and pre-award, which you need to kind of look at. If you are into work towards your degree, either master's degree or PhD degree, how do you go about getting the best of what you do? Choosing your career comes after even you graduate. And then think of the publication you want to associate with. 4-star, 2-star, Scopus, the like of it, you need to know. And why do we need to know a lot about that? Because we need to communicate our research findings effectively. That is not very easy sometimes. And why do we do that? Why do we need to be very careful as to what we do? Because we need to know how to increase our visibilities, how to enhance our credibility, and facilitate collaboration is very, very key, but that is not going to come easy. Therefore, attending conferences, making sure you meet with friends, and reading other people's blogs are very key. Advance your knowledge, improve decision-making, and promote innovation. Those are how we communicate. That's the importance of communicating effectively. Now, here is a stream of things that we just want to share with you, that effective communication channels that you can use. One is publishing peer-reviewed journals. 3 stars, 4 stars. Of course, it's not easy to be accepted in those, for your paper to be accepted. But we will share with you things you can do that could make it easy for you to be accepted. And of course, practice presenting at conferences where you can get feedback from your close associate, close friends. And the use of social media, very important. Those are effective channels that you can use to communicate your credibility and become more visible out there. Don't forget, creating an infographics is also very, very key, where subject can be tailored and share within your own community. Very important. And as a researcher, I think it's important to have your own blogs and post regularly and update them at regular intervals. How about creating videos? Or you might simply say, oh, I don't know how to do one. You'll be amazed. There are a lot of software out there today that you can use that can create easy videos for you. And you can actually present, recording yourself and share it on YouTube, share it on LinkedIn, share it on Facebook. And that in itself does give you more confidence in what you do. But don't forget, collaborate with the media so that you can have a positive footprint on social media. So another thing to mention about part of this presentation is to avoid mistakes. Common errors to avoid in research papers, which can be very, very costly, is using jargons necessarily. Want to impress people. That's why I've made this, I've written 3 slides before I came to this particular one, because some of them are so much text in them and saying too many things that not necessary. So avoid all of that, using jargons, being too technical, focusing on details, not being clear, contextualize what you're talking about, not being concise, just allowing yourself to get into writing and waffle unnecessarily will not help. Not considering your audience. So before you write, it's important to know who is this paper, this book going to address? What situation, what problems is it going to actually fix in the community? Be very clear of that. Not providing context to what you're writing is another issue to avoid. So I think those are common mistakes that I would say as a researcher, you need to avoid them. And it's just a reference point for all of us. So the question I'm going to ask the audience today is, why publish? There's a good reason why you need to publish. One is sharing your knowledge. I mentioned earlier on, small group of committed individuals can change the world. So if you're committed to your career and to what you do, you'll be able to share your knowledge with other people. And don't forget, the minds are like parachutes. They perform best when they're open. So therefore, having to be able to share your knowledge with other people is it's important in itself, and it helps you to create what we call credibility. And then publishing in reputable journals enhances your credibility as a person and visibility to of your research. And this is important for researchers as it helps to establish their expertise in the field and can lead to future opportunities for collaborations, funding, and career advancement. You'll be surprised, someone will read your write-up, your journals, your book, and they want to reach out to you. I've done that. Basically, where I read a particular journals and I fell in love with it and actually write to the editor or the author. So preservation is one other thing to think about. Journals provide a permanent record for the research, which can be referred to and built upon by future researchers. And they'll refer to you, they reference you as based on what Larry Jones or Francis has said, this is what I feel, this is my view of what they said. And then this helps to ensure that the research has a lasting impact and contribute to the advancement of the field over time, of your field over time. But one thing to begin to be aware of is that many people believe if they don't publish, they will perish. Yes, that could be a trap. Be very careful. Start to think of your idea and why you need to research your idea, why you need to write it, and why and how you need to publish. It shouldn't just be based on the fact that if I don't, my career is over. No, you have to, but in some countries, if you have a PhD without publishing, they think you haven't actually arrived. But of course, it's one of those things that makes you an authority in your field. But think about it carefully before you jump into it. It's important that we do that. But there are many other ways today to allow or to share our knowledge. There is a new way, which is called preprint. You don't really need to go into some big journal organization. There are preprint organizations that are out there that they can share your write-up and share with other people. But of course, it's good to do a peer review that helps you to see and to do things credibly and to be noticed out there. But just to kind of say, there are, of course, peer review journals are very, very credible, but also there's a preprint today that's also out there that we can use. So why choose the right journals? Well, you have to consider your audience. There are many subject areas that one needs to look into. And it depends on your own area of expertise, your own career, and you have to choose which one to publish in. So look at the journal scope. Check the impact factor. Look at the review process and check the publication fees and look at the publication timeline and seek advice. Sometimes, if you're new to publishing, you find many journals will ask you to pay heavy amounts to publish in their papers. Be very careful. What I would say, yes, you might need to pay some amount, but not heavy amount. You need to find out which one of them you can use that will charge you less. Or seek advice. Don't jump into conclusion when it comes to publishing in a particular journals. So I brought this, I'm sure majority of you would know, this is a tool for choosing the right journals for your papers or for your topic. Elsevier, they have this tool that you can use basically that helps you match your topic with the right journals. So if you're finding it difficult to do that, they can actually help you with that. Just look into start matching and putting your topic there, and it will tell you what journals is important. So investigate journals by visiting their homepage on the publisher's website, such as elsevier.com. But in addition, many publishers now have tools to help authors with finding all this information themselves, such as the one I'm mentioning to you now, which is Finder's tool, where you can upload the title, an abstract of your article, and allow the tool to generate suggested journals by subject using the tool's powerful matching algorithm. I think it's important that you do that so that you don't waste too much time. There are tools out there that could help you. You can then interrogate the result and compare impact factor, editorial speed, open access options, and so on. And you decide what to do. Don't forget, as a young researcher, speak to those who are experienced and expert in this. They can guide you on what to do. And here's some of the process, journal publication process that you can go through. One, choose a journal. So you find the journals from the previous slide, from this location. You find a nice journal that you want to use. Like you currently use IGI Global, and there are many others out there. So find those journals and then prepare your manuscript. And of course, submit your manuscript. Peer review, revision, acceptance, and publication. And those are the process that we go through. And you cannot, if you miss any of these processes, then you're missing out on most of the important aspects of your publication. So writing process. One, choosing a topic, a title that you think merit attention. The process of writing, building the article is this. Get a title that you think this will attract people. And then, of course, a small abstract in a page that help you to, and the keywords that help you to know why you're writing this paper. And of course, follow the process, review some literature to see what has been written out there and what you can add, because at the end of the day, you're trying to add to the body of knowledge. So find out what has been written out there. At some point, reinventing the wheel. So of course, you can carry on from where someone else is stopped, but make sure it's something that is really of interest to you that will attract or impact or have an impact in the community or society. And of course, your introductions. The method you use is very important. The result, the discussions, and the figures and tables are all very important. That is one of the things that I think we should just mention. So for most scientific field, the most efficient way is to regard the manuscript as a wall and build it as a brick by brick. So you cannot see what you need to do. Your topic is important, and then who to publish with is very important. Who will read your journal is very important. So I would suggest that you follow a different sequence for writing articles than you do for reading it. So there's a way when you read an article, you jot some stuff down that you think resonate with you. But when you're writing, you need to also look at how will somebody else read what I'm writing? How would they relate? How would they react to it? See from that point of view. So start with producing your table and figures with captions, legend, since the data is central to the paper, and then describe the method used, the result found, and the discussion around this result that you found. And the conclusion should flow in from the inside easily, should flow easily as you read it. Then you write the introduction, explaining where your work fits into the field that you're in. And finally, you write the title, the abstract, the keywords, so that they are fully appropriate to the final content. And those are the ways, the steps that you go through that can help you get the best out of that. So this process of building the article is easier, more logical, and more effective at trying to write an article in the sequence that is read. So I think it's important that you see that. So think in your mind, how do I get others to read my book, to read what I write? But here is communicating your findings. Yet I put this in here, finding from this comic.com site. I think it's important to see. Have a draft, have a read, revise it plenty of time. I mentioned to you earlier on, just to produce this slide alone, this just about 30 slides, it took me almost 2 weeks. You write, you stop, read it. Oh, this is not good enough. So you might have to have the first draft, second draft, third draft, revise, keep reading. That's why I say it's very stressful. Sometimes you say, oh, I'm going to stop. But yes, you don't need to, because if you are able to get through it, it makes you become who you want to become. And of course, before your draft is approved, it could take a long time. And sometimes some journals, publishers, you submit your manuscript to them, and they come up with so many corrections because they have blind review. And someone will read what you've written and say, it doesn't make sense, and then you have to start all over again. Yes, be ready for that. But if you do this before you submit, then you cut out some of those heartbreaks, messages or information that you get, or response that you get from reviewers sometimes. So read, revise, draft, revise before you submit for approval. So ethical publishing, this part is so key. Bonaparte, a French historian, said many years ago, men see tactics, whereby I conquered. What none see is a strategy from which victories evolve. As a publisher, you need to be ethically proud of who you are. I think it's important. Authorship and ownership is it's one of those good things. That you think this, don't just put your name on a book because someone has written it and you want to publish, you want to become known, and you just, oh, add my name to it. No. I think it's important that you know about a book, about the subject, play a part, either editing it, proofreading it, or helping to develop the content. And that in itself gives you that credibility, and you'll be proud of yourself. Plagiarism. Plagiarism is a serious offense academically, so be aware of that. And then the fair use of other people's material. And of course, licensing and open access. You need to understand all of this aspect when you're publishing. And these are the aspects that I thought I would mention in this presentation. Plagiarism is the appropriation of another person's idea, appropriations of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credit, including those obtained through confidential review of others, research proposals, and manuscript. This is from the Federal Office of Science and Technology Policy, 1999, and it's still available and still useful to today. So you might have people who send you the papers to review or sending the papers as students. You need to make sure you collaborate with them and not use their material without telling them. That would be in itself academic misconduct or malpractice. So future considerations for academic research: increased use of technology in research with new tools and techniques for data collections and analysis is actually very, very important. I'm not sure if you see the chat GPT. Something, oh, this is going to be a very damaging tools in some cases. But you'll be surprised. When calculator came out back in the days, people think this is going to create serious problems, but it became a useful tool. So chat GPT can be a very good tool in the future, the way I say it. But of course, many students today are using chat GPT to write their papers. Of course, that could be considered cheating in some cases, in some ways. But until when we look at the implications academically, before we can say anything, I'm not going to condemn the use of it now, but I believe it's a good tool that could really help as we go along. The growing focus on interdisciplinary research with researchers from different fields collaborating on projects to solve complex problems. So that's important. So focus on how to work with other people from different fields. If you're in IT, why not work with people in business and vice versa, and to see how you can work together to solve complex issues. And again, future considerations of academic research is focusing on open science with researchers sharing their data and findings openly with other researchers and the member of the public. to solve problems and to create solutions that are missing out there. That is what I believe I want to share with you today. And I believe there's so much that we can talk about, but time is not on our side. So I'm now open for questions. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And yes, we will open the floor. We still have a little bit more than 10 minutes. So if anybody, I did see Natalia had a question about if we use tables or rather go for text in the articles. I don't know if it's something you'd be able to answer.
Say the question again, please.
Oh, sure. Do we use tables or rather go for text in the articles?
Well, it depends on the requirement of the publisher, so to say. So some of them do give you format that they want to use. So sometimes it's good to speak to the journals and then ask them what they prefer. But table is good, but it's also very important that you adhere to the requirement of the publishers.
Great. Does anybody else, by the way, either feel free to put a question in the chat, or if you have a question, feel free to also unmute yourself and just ask directly. Okay. Natalia, I think you have your hand raised.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this great presentation, Larry.
Thank you.
A question for the management articles. What do you think would be a good peer-reviewed journal that's not too expensive? I will check the Elsevier for sure, but I don't know whether you have been publishing anything and you have got like your preference somehow.
Yeah, I use 3 publishers that I've used. One of them is IGI Global. I use them. They're very, very good. Yes, I'll share that with the presentation if that's okay. Yeah. That's all right.
So
We did have just one question about preprint. Maybe to talk a little bit more about preprint.
Yes, that's right. Because sometimes the amount of money that people pay to have their article printed and get a copy on it is quite sometimes expensive. So many companies now are now saying you don't need to actually print. They basically, before you get to the print, you have your manuscript submitted to them. And of course, they have it on their website. So you can basically attribute that to yourself before anything actually happens. So that is actually gaining momentum these days. And I think it's important that if you don't have to get to pay any amount of money, just allowing your material to be out there, and you can share an open source material for them. I think it's very key. So that's preprint is actually a new thing. I'm still going through reading much about it as well to see how I can use it. I've not used it myself, but I'll try and use it again.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions, of course, please feel free to mention the chat. We did have one last question. How long is the typical cycle writing publication?
3 to 6 months to a year sometimes. It depends. Depends on the time you have to provide. Sometimes it could be within 6 months, 1 year. Sometimes you could write for 16 months. So it depends. It depends on your time. But I would say 3 to 6 months is minimum time, but it could go up to a year or more, depending on what time you can actually afford to give.
Well, thank you again, and we hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day, if it's morning, evening, afternoon for you. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you everybody again for joining, and we'll have the recording available as well if you would like to be able to look back at any of the information.
Just to quickly mention something that there are
Sure.
many journals out there. For example, we have the international journals of management, of science, and of knowledge management. There's American journals as well. There's quite a few of them that one can use, depending on where you are. But I'll provide a list. I was going to actually include that in my presentation as well. But I'll get you a list of all the publishers that you can use out there. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Hopefully, see many of you soon in Paris.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Many, many thanks. Thank you so much. So useful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.